Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. How are we getting on? It's been a little while, which I do apologise. The old motivation levels have not been stunning lately, but we are back in action, and we've got some very, very cool things coming up over the next few months that I'm very excited for. So, if you've been waiting for the opportune moment to hit that subscribe button, now will be an epically good time. So, let's have a look at today's build. So, the plan for today, I wanted to do a build incorporating an existing structure, specifically the Quonset hut barn thing you can see at the back of the build there. Unfortunately, the thing is a little on the large side to fit entirely inside the build area, so I've elected to use it as a kind of entranceway. It's also rather cluttered in there and awkward for the point of view that it's got an enemy spawn point in it, so some shortcomings there. But let's see where we are here. We're not far from Morgantown, Baltic University just there, and Mononga's just over the way there. Not so far from Vault 76 either. So let's jump in and have a look at this build then. So I'll start off, I'll show you where I dropped the camp unit, because fitting this thing in was a bit awkward. Just here off the corner of the building, it gives us the space to have most of the Quonset hut inside the area, so we can use it as a structure to build off of. And also leaves us plenty of space on the outside to build more bits and pieces as well. See, we're kind of arcing through the structure there. We've also got a little area full of some food that's already in place here, so I wanted to incorporate that as well, or at least some of that. Moving on from the rainy weather, let's start off with some walls. So I wanted to make this place look reasonably permanent and secure, but also kind of scrappy and wasteland. So we're going to go with the closest thing to old school junk walls we can pull off, which is a little different here to the way we used to do it in Fallout 4, not least of all because we haven't got group select and concrete pillars and such to work with. So it's a case of figuring out what will sit closely together and what will sort of naturally sink into the ground, depending on the elevation and the slopes and things like that. A little bit of twizzling here, we'll get these new concrete filled tyres rather, stack up. So the idea here is to use all sorts of bits and pieces, mix and match things, and just make it look like a ramshackle barricade. Sort of put together with anything you can get your hands on. And also to give it a lot of detail and texture and that sort of thing. So we're going to use all manner of interesting bits and pieces. On this occasion we're going to use this pool table as the basis for a guard post, sort of. Fortunately, guard posts won't sit on top of the pool table, so cunning plans are required to get everything to sit together. So we can pull that out of the way. It's not colliding with the tyres, so it's just the pool table being awkward. Looks like it's going to work there, but no. Was not to be. However, stick a couple of rugs down, using these small ones because the large ones are just too big. These will be nicely concealed underneath the guard post when we put it on top. So we'll get a little double layer in here and make sure there's plenty of support for things. I'm not exactly sure what the contact points are on the guard post. It's not this time around anyway. So, 6 rugs in there. Find the guard post again. And there we go. A little bit floaty, but that's kind of the curse of 76 there, I suppose. On the other hand, it looks pretty good. Don't look too closely. Get that in place. Come on, there we go. And we have a guard post. I'm going to use a concrete-filled tyre as a kind of step in a bit. I'm going to move on a little bit as well, because putting this wall together is a bit-by-bit thing and involves a lot of scrolling through the menus to find interesting bits and pieces to use and things that are going to work together and so on and so forth. So we're going to show you the general principle, give you the idea, show you how I did things, but without spending probably about 2 hours all told putting this together. So hopefully you'll get the idea and be able to create something in a similar vein yourself, should you care to. I spent ages wanting to use this shelf as part of the wall, and it took me a while to find somewhere where I was actually happy with it. This was one of the first places. Eventually, it kind of pops into the earth. Somewhere. Oh, that's it. Yeah, I had to place it down and then move it, and then it wanted to play ball a bit more. There we go. Is there somewhere? Come on. Nice. It's quite tall, and with a big flat back to it, it makes a kind of appropriate barricade. So it's also made of metal rather than wood or something, which is cool. So I did use the ordinary fences quite a lot in this build, just because, particularly where the ground's particularly sloping, they work better than trying to put furniture in there. In this case, as you can see, because of the slope, that particular bit of fence there provides absolutely zero obstacle. I mean, actually it would keep the enemies out, or anything that doesn't fly anyway, but it doesn't look quite right, so we're going to kind of double up a little bit here. Not ideal, but once we get a bit more texture and a bit more decoration on this, it'll kind of conceal the fact that it's floating a bit and it's two just kind of shoved together, and it works quite well. Going to get the sneaker coal machine in here. Again, tiny little bit of floating, a little unavoidable, but it does the job. Stick a guard post in there. One of the few things that actually will sink into the ground. Or willingly. There we go. Moving on a little bit, we'll head around the corner a bit. Going to use a milk machine on top of a concrete tyre here. Fortunately, it won't sit on the top, presumably because of the chains and whatever on earth that is in the middle. It probably doesn't bear thinking about. So, a couple of rugs. One's not actually going to do the job. Still not quite high enough, but stack a couple on top of that. Now it will sit on the top just fine, and still doesn't really look like it's floating too much. So, a little bit of adjustment. Nudge that as close to this concrete wall as we can get. I wanted to avoid using too many of those concrete walls, because they're the obvious solution, and they do clip nicely through the ground, but they are rather repetitive, and we've done it a couple of times now, so do something a little different. I did consider using the vending machine as part of the outer wall here, because it's quite a solid, large object, but I wasn't quite happy with the way it looked, so I figured if anybody comes visits, they'll probably try to use the vending machine, which is not necessarily a problem. It wasn't really what I was going for. So we're going to use a wooden table here, just behind the fence, just to add a little more depth and solidness, for want of a better word, to this little section of fence. Pile a few bits and pieces on the top there. I like that these filing cabinets, if I can get the word out, actually snap together. That's pretty cool. I'll get those in an order that I'm happy with. Yeah. Boom. Look at that. Nice. So, that's the general gist of the wall. We'll have a look at it in a bit more detail on the tour. We'll jump on to have a look at some of the interior buildings now. So with this Quonset hut being our entranceway, it has a major problem that essentially it's not that secure. Anybody can just pick the locks on it and wander on through. Also, it's an enemy spawn point, as I said before, so a little bit of extra security for the camp will be required. So I'm going to basically build a guard post of sorts onto the back of the building here. Just going to get these two foundations as close to the back wall as we can. I'm using the centre of the door to line up the gap between the two, so it's nice and even. It's going to be a bit of a weird shape, because I didn't want to take that particular piece of the wall out. I think in the end I actually did, but still, nothing wrong with a bit of an odd-shaped structure. Get a few the warehouse walls on there, because they kind of blend a little more with the Quonset hut being corrugated steel. Unfortunately, we can't get any walls up against the wall of the Quonset hut here. We're too close to it. But we are also close enough that when we put a roof on, it should mesh up quite nicely. Like that. These were a little temperamental, server lag notwithstanding. So, bit of faffing, and they go in eventually. Just mix up the point of view you're looking at it from, and eventually it'll snap. There we go. A little bit of a gap there on the corner, but I don't mind too much. It gives it kind of improvised feeling. And we'll come back and decorate later and put the doors on at the end, because they kind of get in the way. So this will be our player home, and it's dead simple. It's a little more than combined dining area, bedroom, and seating space. I want to have a couple of levels in here, try and create something interesting in spite of its small size. So we'll mix up this foundation just a little bit. Cover that one from the back corner. Basically ends up being a kind of plus shape. Here I wanted the entranceway on a lower level, but not all the way down in the way that putting a ramp on would affect. So just going to nudge this front one on down a little bit, hold the place, and then just drop it down. Then we'll snap the second one in. Pull this front section off when I make my mind up. And there we go. So you can use the ramps, as I've done before, to go for a half height down again. But in this case, I didn't want to step down by quite that much. So, That does, however, come with certain drawbacks that we'll see in just a moment. Slap some walls on there. Going to go for the mixed materials here. Going to combine brick walls around the sides that face outside of the camp. Make it a bit sturdier, should any fire be incoming. And then use the wood on the inside. Some roofs on here. So, need a doorway on the front here to get this roof to snap. Boom. Eventually. There we go. I very, very rarely use this little... I have no idea what type of thing that is on the top of the roof. The roof with the little mini hut thing that sticks up on it. Hardly use it. But I thought it'd be fun to do it for a change this time. So, get some of these angled walls in, nice and easy. We do need to have that half wall in at the top there, otherwise we wind up with a bit of a gap between this front roof and the roof above. Or it clips down at the front, one or the other. Which is not entirely ideal. It looks a bit weird to have that hanging down. And I didn't want a doorway here. Tried it, didn't like the way it looked. So, on the inside of me. So, we'll have to make do with the fact that the roof hangs down or have a large gap there. So, very, very basic, very, very simple little structure. But it has a bit more character. Ended up switching out some of the wood walls just to give it a little more of a complete look. So, only the porch is now wooden. And the main portion of the structure, the upper level, is all brick. But I like the way it looks. It's pretty cool. It's simple. Done job. So we need a crafting area. So I'm going to put a very, very simple kind of warehouse structure in here. And you can see just at the back there, inside the walls, I've got a little kind of lean-to hut built as well. Just as a little bit of extra variety in there. Dead simple, just a couple of foundations and walls and a roof snapped on. But with this workshop, I suppose, I wanted to use the rolling garage doors and tuck it up against this kind of walkway that I built into the walls here, and not have it encroach too much onto the little farm area there in the front that's sort of pre-existing. So, getting some interesting angles on, we're going to put some half walls at the top, angled roofs, make it a little bit more interesting for a narrow warehouse structure. Onto the rolling metal door, which unfortunately won't snap on if you've got the roof on. So, roof back off, door in, roof back on. All about that build order, even. So for this front entranceway, I did think about putting steps straight on, but they didn't look very good, so I'm going for a kind of mini patio on the front. Which is dead simple. So for the final structure, we need a little area to put our player vending. Little shop area. So back in between the kind of guard post and the player home, nudge this over a little bit. This time I wanted to use a wooden floor just for a bit of variety. So we're at the bottom of the hill here, so kind of slope naturally leads onto the structure, which is quite cool. Did make putting any extra foundations or stairs in a bit awkward, but you can still just wander straight in, so it's not a problem. Pop a few walls on. We're going to use the same principle as we did for the warehouse here. The workshop, rather. This time, a couple of white picket fences on the front, just to mix things up a little bit. This time we'll do the roof the other way around. Dead easy. Did a couple of these structures in this build. Just one in the walls and these two as well. Very, very simple, very, very effective for little outbuilding type structures. Nudge one of the billboards on the front there. An atomic shop item, this one. It wants to cooperate. Another cool thing about these is you can adjust the height to a certain extent anyway, which is quite cool. If it doesn't look like it, we've got plenty of clearance to get underneath there, so there we have our little entranceway. Nudge it back a little bit so it sits a bit more closely to the building. So, tour time. Let's have a look around. Really, really happy with how this came out. We've got a nice, secure building, uses an existing structure in quite a cool way, I think, and creates something that I think's got plenty of character, looks semi-permanent, and is pretty well defended. Yeah, I really like the character of this place. It's cool. Well, I think so anyway. I hope you guys like it as well. Take a little spin around the outside walls here. We've got a bit of a mixture of things. Basically anything that would work out of the menus just to form a barricade with. Little issue with the tyres floating there, but is what it is. A few turrets tucked in, more to attract attention if anything attacks than anything else, but a few stash boxes crammed in there for a bit of extra detail. These piles of concrete-filled tyres that you can stack up make for really good turret emplacements. I quite like them for that. The back of our little hut. We come back round to the front where we've got a guard post so you can see who's arriving at the camp. And not so politely invite them to leave if they're not welcome. And we'll make our way in through these doors, which actually default to locked every time you move in and out. But as I say, this space is rather cluttered, as you can see, and unfortunately we can't do anything about clearing it out. And coupled with the petrified people there and the fact that super mutants and scorch frequently spawn in here, certain shortcomings to having it inside the camp. So we have our little guard post. As you probably guessed from this, I had actually intended to put 2 turrets on that table. And a few more bits and pieces in here actually, but I ran out of build budget, as per usual. Well, came very, very close to it anyway before I started the decoration, so I had to limit things a little bit. But I think I managed to pull off a reasonably lived-in, complex and nice-looking camp, so I'm quite happy with this. Really like the look of the shop there. A little bit of detail. It's dead simple, but it came out really, really nice, really welcoming. I like it. Not the most secure corner of the place here, where the fence dips down a bit, and I was hoping I could lower that billboard a little more, make it feel more secure, but unfortunately I couldn't. Getting a closer look at our shop. We've got a few plants in there, added a few weeks back in the atomic shop, make for really nice decorations. I had a splash of colour, which is cool. I like how colourful that came out, which is nice. I do like putting the bathtub on the sofa there as part of the wall. It's one of my favourite little features of it, I think. Some more display cases actually on the back wall there behind the house. See them in the corner there. I've attached a little extra foundation on the corner here for a cooking space as well, which we'll take a look at in just a moment. Coming in, decoration's pretty basic. Again, as I say, I ran out of build budget, but you get the general idea. There are some areas that you could put less detail in and more decoration if you so desire, if you want to do something similar. Bits and pieces of the wall that hide behind buildings, things like that, for example. The little central area is nice and open and gives a bit of space to emerge from the checkpoint into. Here's our little cooking station. Pick the grill up from the atomic shop there, so I can cook on the barbecue. Tucking around the corner, we have our Raider-esque throne. Take a look at it in just a moment. I've had a look at the back of the wall here. Unfortunately, this thing does not allow you to attach doors or steps to it, which is kind of unfortunate. So you're kind of getting up to the seat there is a bit annoying. You kind of have to push it up against either a foundation or, in this case, I've used a couple of stash boxes to build an improvised staircase. And for a bit of privacy, I turned it away from the rest of the camp as well, since we can't put a door on. So up on a dead simple little guard post walkway thing here. You have to start with the staircase and then snap onto that. And then I just positioned the extra guard post and snapped on some railings. Dead easy. But it allows a decent fire point, and I wanted a higher section of wall here, given that the ground slopes up and any attackers could stand on that ridge line there and fire down quite easily. But we're reinforced the bottom with a few concrete filled and encrusted tyres, some stash boxes and a piano, because why not? This little balcony, I tried a few bits and pieces on to try and make it a bit more interesting than what I usually do, or just sort of do something a bit different, but I went for a very, very basic couple of concrete barricades, I suppose, there, and then fenced off the little growing farm area there. Wanted to use the electric door and the pressure plate to open it. Unfortunately, I didn't have a really decent way of using the switches without running conduits, which in this case I didn't actually want to do, or pushing the conduits through the wall. But, as you can see, we've got a little Voltec generator in there to power the door. and the lights in there. Kind of cuts through, but incidentally, to get that connected, you need to wire up the door first so that it opens, then put the pressure plate in the middle of the doorway, wire up the pressure plate and remove the original wire, and then the door will close onto the pressure plate. So a combination of a dustbin and a shelf here for a little guard post. Looks good. Not so easy to get onto when you've got marsupial activated. Has its pros and its cons, that particular mutation. Decided to turn this little hut into a brewing station. Didn't really know what to do with it. I wanted to put some sort of farm tools in there as well, but unfortunately we don't have that option, so here's the view out from our little guard post. See the front entrance here and yell at anybody who comes around, or shoot them if need be. With the farm here, I had to do the fences in bits because they basically wouldn't snap and pieces were floating and yada 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 with the elevation and all that, as per usual. So it kind of works. A bit of improvisation needed. It's a bit ramshackle, but I'm fine with that, I think. The whole thing's a bit ramshackle, so it's kind of in keeping there. And there we have it. Almost a settlement, I like to think. I'm really happy with how this little camp build turned out. Would have liked to be able to do a bit more with the Quonset hut. Hopefully we'll do some more builds involving pre-existing structures before too long. And we'll have a few more options, hopefully. I'm going to keep an eye out for a few places that aren't so overly busy. You know, they haven't got so much stuff in them, places like that. Or what is in there should hopefully work better with a camp. I've got one idea as it is, and if you guys know of any cool locations, I'd be interested to hear about them. So, let's take a brief look around in the evening, seeing as time is flying on as it's wont to do. That's the inside door. A little bit of light here, reasonably bright to dazzle anybody who opens the door. And I think it's got a reasonably warming, welcoming feel to it. Quite a large area really, so it's hard to illuminate it well, but the oil lamp's doing good work as usual there. I like the light coming off of the shop as well in the evening, that's quite nice. Not a great deal of lighting inside the house, but so it's pretty basic in there, but a little bit of light twinkling through the windows. More oil lamps throwing a bit of light around the fences, more so you can see where you're going than anything else. Have a bit of a shifty around the inside of this workshop. Very, very narrow, but we managed to squeeze in everything you need. Some sort of wall-mounted workshop lights here as well. I don't know if you can actually catch a view of it in video, actually. Slight error on my part here, but on top of the guard post there, you just about saw it there, is a windmill that I put on top of the roof, because I needed a bit of extra power and I didn't want wires trailing all over the place, so that's what's powering my shop, in short. Whereas the Voltaic generator in the workshop's powering the workshop. Little look out here. I like that there's plenty of light behind, but it doesn't dazzle you when you're looking out, which is quite cool. On the other hand, it does make you extremely visible to anybody hiding in the shadows and wanting to shoot you, so swings and roundabouts, I suppose. Yeah, really nice, semi-permanent looking, almost settlement-looking build, I think. No idea what I'm going to title this video. I guess you guys will know by now. But there we go. I'm quite happy with how this came out. Hopefully we'll have a few more cool ideas coming up very, very soon. And of course more through the Keyhole episodes as well. For now, thank you very much for watching. Do hope you enjoyed. If you did, please do hit those buttons for me. It was very, very much appreciated. Social media links down in the description as well if you want to keep up to date on Twitter, Instagram or Facebook. You can catch up with me over there. Do catch up on one of the live streams as well. There are very, very many cool things coming over the next few weeks that I'm really, really excited for on that front as well as the video front, so well worth a look. And if you're really enjoying the content, please do consider becoming a channel member as well. The support is hugely appreciated. Thank you very much to everybody who's already done that. For now, I will say thank you very much for watching, and I look forward to speaking to you all very, very soon.